My name is Megan Williams. Today, like any other day, I'm facing numbers in my office inside a Houston high-rise. From my window, I can see the cityscape bathed in the scorching Texas sun. As a financial advisor, my job is to manage other people's money. Megan, could you check the Breakwell family's portfolio? My colleague Jessica calls out. As always, I smile and nod. I've been known for my strong sense of responsibility since childhood. My father passed away 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack. Since that day, I've become the pillar supporting my family, my mother Carol and my sister Brenda. Just the three of us in our small family. Since graduating college and starting at this company, I've always sent part of my salary home. The medical and funeral expenses for Dad had devastated our family finances. I thought it would be temporary at first, but now it's become the norm. There's a new shopping mall opening this weekend. Want to go together? My mother calls during lunch break. I sigh involuntarily at the thought of more shopping. Carol's spending habits have gotten worse over the years, becoming increasingly uncontrollable since Dad died. Didn't you go shopping just last week? You must have used up this month's budget already. Don't worry. I have credit cards. At her usual response, I close my eyes and take a deep breath. Explaining has been futile. My words about the importance of investing and saving never reach my mother's ears. She continues buying new clothes and decorations and going on trips with friends. Then when the bills arrive, she invariably comes to me for help. I have to work overtime today, so let's skip the shopping. By the way, what happened with Brenda's photo exhibition? Oh, that. Mother's voice drops. It got cancelled again. She couldn't find a sponsor. Brenda works as a freelance photographer, but honestly, it hardly generates any income. She might have artistic sensibility, but she completely lacks business sense. Still, she dreams of someday holding a major exhibition while collecting expensive camera equipment. And of course, I'm the source of those funds too. Back at my desk, I open the household budget spreadsheet on my computer. I manage everything, including my mother and sister's finances. Looking at the ever-growing deficit, I see my tired expression reflected in the mirror. Yet there's a small light of hope in my heart now. I reach out and pull an ultrasound picture from my desk drawer. Only 3 months along. A life the size of a bean, but definitely there, my baby. A new life conceived with Michael. We've been dating for a year, and he works at a local construction company. Meeting such an honest and kind man has gradually brightened my life. Last weekend, I gathered my courage and told my family about the pregnancy. My mother's reaction was complicated. Congratulations, but really, now. You're supporting this household. What about your job when the baby comes? What will happen to us? My mother expressed financial concerns before her own joy. And my sister simply said, "Congratulations," but her eyes revealed anxiety. She was probably afraid that my support would decrease. Though we haven't made concrete marriage plans yet, Michael and I have started living together. We've even talked about moving to a larger place for the baby. As I put away the ultrasound picture, I think about my family. I've had many conversations trying to help them become self-sufficient. I've introduced them to job opportunities and advised them on reducing wasteful spending. But in the end, it's easiest for them if I continue taking care of everything. My phone rings. It's a message from Michael. Looks like I can get home early today. Anything you want to eat? I smile as I reply, anything is fine. I just want to see you soon. For now, I'll forget about tomorrow's budget struggles and my mother's credit card bills. I want to cherish this small happiness. This is my life. As evening falls, I finish work and head home. While driving, I talk to the tiny life in my belly. Mommy is going to make a better life for you. I promise. I had no way of knowing how much weight that promise would carry. One day, I was able to finish work earlier than usual. Excited by a message from Michael, I was driving through Houston's twilight streets. As I gazed at the setting sun over the cityscape, I was thinking about my future life, about the baby, my future with Michael, and my family. The traffic light turned green, and I entered the intersection. That's when a truck speeding out of control crashed into the side of my car. The deafening sound of the collision, the shattering glass. For a moment, the world spun, and everything felt distant. Before falling into darkness, my final thought was of the baby in my womb. Can you hear me? When I regained consciousness, I was in an ambulance. My entire body was in severe pain, and even breathing was difficult. I could hear sirens and muffled conversations. I desperately moved my lips. Save the baby. Upon arriving at the hospital, I was immediately taken to the examination room. My memories from there are fragmentary: the white ceiling, doctors' urgent voices, the cold touch of machines. A doctor with a grave expression stood beside my bed. You have multiple fractures and internal injuries. Emergency surgery is necessary. And the doctor hesitated for a moment. The fetus is in critical condition. Without immediate treatment, there's a high probability of losing it. Tears ran down my cheeks. Though I couldn't move my body from the pain, I desperately nodded. Please. I'll do anything. There's another issue. A person who appeared to be a hospital administrator appeared with documents in hand. Your insurance doesn't cover the full cost of the necessary surgeries. You'll have an out-of-pocket expense of nearly $200,000. $200,000. That figure echoed in my head. Most of my savings had gone to supporting my family. I had some emergency savings, but nowhere near enough. We don't have time, the doctor said. We'll proceed with preparing for surgery, but let's discuss the cost issue later. Before being taken to the operating room, a nurse handed me my cell phone. With trembling fingers, I called my mother. Mom. My voice shook. I've been in an accident. I need surgery. I briefly explained the situation and asked for help, that the baby's life was in danger, that the insurance wouldn't cover the high medical costs. On the other end of the phone, my mother was silent for a moment. Hope and anxiety mixed together. She must be shocked as well. I can't pay for your medical bills. My mother's words were cold, a response I never expected. We have our own lives to live. Besides, we have a Caribbean cruise reservation next month. If I have that money, I'd rather go on vacation. I couldn't believe my ears. A Caribbean cruise. Talking about a vacation when I'm in a life-threatening situation. Mom, please, the baby is in danger. You decided to get pregnant, didn't you? We have no responsibility for that. The call ended. Faced with this unbelievable reality, I was simply dumbfounded. Next, I called my sister Brenda. After explaining the situation and asking for help, her response was similar. Why should we pay for you with money I've saved for my photography equipment? Where did all the money you've earned go? At those words, everything I had sacrificed for my family flashed through my mind: the money I'd been sending since college graduation, my mother's credit card payments, my sister's expensive camera equipment. Brenda. I've always. The words wouldn't come. My vision blurred with pain and sadness. Solve your own problems. You've always acted so superior, so figure it out yourself. Brenda hung up too. I was overwhelmed by a feeling of complete abandonment. With one last hope, I called Michael. The phone rang many times, but there was no answer. I desperately left a message on his voicemail. Michael. I've been in an accident. I'm at the hospital, the baby is in danger, please call me back. The nurse returned to prepare for surgery. Were you able to contact your family? I just silently shook my head. A look of sympathy appeared in the nurse's eyes. Don't worry. I'll call a social worker. There are medical assistance programs. As the pre-surgery anesthesia began to take effect, a wave of fear and anxiety washed over me. The feeling of being abandoned by my loved ones, treated like garbage. The surgery lasted 8 hours. When I awoke, I was lying in an intensive care unit bed. From the doctor's expression at my bedside, I understood everything. I'm sorry, the fetus. I didn't need to hear those words. The small life inside me was no longer in this world. Something deeper than the pain of miscarriage was breaking inside me: trust, bonds, affection. The illusion of family was tearing away like a thin piece of paper. Michael never contacted me. I later learned that after hearing about the accident, he disappeared, afraid to take responsibility. On the day of my discharge, a hospital social worker visited my room. With her help, I applied for a medical assistance program that would cover most of the costs. Still, the remaining balance would use up all my remaining savings. Thank you, I said, holding the social worker's hand. You're the only one who helped me. For several days after discharge, I lay alone in my apartment, staring at the ceiling. The phone kept ringing, but I didn't answer any calls from my mother. She had probably heard about my condition from the hospital. Then came the day of decision. I took my cell phone and typed a short message. My relationship with the two of you who abandoned me when I needed you most ends here. From now on, let's live as strangers. Please don't contact me again. The moment I pressed send, I felt as if a burden had been lifted. Finally, I opened my photo folder and looked at the ultrasound picture for a long time. Then I pressed delete. Like erasing the past. Looking around the room, I realized there was nothing left for me in this city. To start a new life, I needed to leave everything behind. The next day, I bought a one-way ticket to Chicago. A new city, a new life. A place where no one knows me, where I can rebuild myself. Never again will I depend on anyone. Before leaving the apartment, I took one last look at Houston from the window. All that remained were memories of sadness and betrayal. The Chicago winter was harsh. The cold I had never experienced in Houston cut to the bone. 6 months had passed since the accident, and while my physical wounds were healing, the emotional ones were still raw. Looking at the snowy landscape from my small apartment window, I was determined to start a new life. When leaving Houston, I brought only a few clothes and little cash. Still, I was trying to find new hope in this slushy city. Through my college friend Jennifer, I was set to interview at a major Chicago investment firm, Morgan Investment. Still limping slightly, I summoned my last strength for the interview. Your experience as a financial advisor is impressive, Mr. Grayson, the interviewer said. I'm curious though, why did you leave Houston? Taking a deep breath, I answered, after suffering major debt from a medical incident, I became deeply interested in the problems with our medical insurance system. I thought at this company, I could use that knowledge to help people suffering in similar situations. Something lit up in Mr. Grayson's eyes. He closed my resume and said in a gentle voice, actually, I lost a family member to illness a few years ago and struggled with medical expenses myself. An advisor with your personal experience is valuable. The following week, I received a job offer. Megan, I'd like you to look at this case. Mr. Grayson placed a file on my desk 3 months after I started. It's a middle-aged couple undergoing treatment for a serious illness. They're on the verge of bankruptcy due to medical expenses their insurance won't cover. As I read through the file, my own past came vividly back to me. Leave it to me. I worked late into the night, developing a financial plan for them, medical assistance programs, tax deductions, investment strategy revisions, and debt consolidation. I considered every option and proposed the optimal solution. "Megan, this is amazing," Mr. Grayson's eyes sparkled. "I've never seen such a comprehensive plan." The client couple thanked me with tears. From that day, my reputation spread rapidly within the company. Customers with medical expense problems were increasingly referred to me. "You're not just a financial advisor," Mr. Grayson told me one day. "You're a lifesaver." Those words changed something in me. A year later, I had my own team within the company, a division called the Medical Finance Department. It specialized in helping people struggling with medical expenses and providing relief solutions. And about 3 years after the accident, I finally made a big decision. "I'm going to start my own company," I told Mr. Grayson. Though he looked sad, he showed understanding. "You have a great mission. I'll support you." Saying that, he became the first investor in my new company. Second Chance Financial, the name of my company, contains a promise to myself. Having experienced the darkest period of my life and risen again, I wanted to use that experience to help many others. My first office was small, but my reputation spread quickly. "She's not just an advisor. She's someone who's been there," people said, spreading the word. What made my company distinctive was that, in addition to normal financial planning, it had unique strategies specifically for medical expenses, knowledge of how to negotiate with insurance companies, available support programs, and most importantly, an approach that stood by clients. All were things I had learned through pain. 1 year after starting the business, my staff had grown to 20, and the office expanded. Clients began coming from all over the country, and we started offering consultations by phone and online. I was interviewed by Business Week magazine 18 months after founding the company. Female Entrepreneur Saving People from Medical Bankruptcy, a feature article detailing my accident experience, family estrangement, and story of rebuilding. Megan Williams' success is not just business success. It's a story of hope that transformed personal tragedy into social contribution, read the editor's comment at the end of the article. That article triggered a surge of media attention. I began appearing on local TV stations, radio programs, and even national news broadcasts. "My mission is to help people not ruin their lives due to medical expenses," I said in a nationally televised interview seen by millions. From that day, the phones never stopped ringing. Inquiries flooded in, and we opened new offices one after another. Based in Chicago, we expanded to New York, Los Angeles, and even Houston. It wasn't intentional to open a branch in Houston, but ironically, the city that once hurt me had now become part of my business. My income increased dramatically, and my personal assets reached several $1 million. I purchased a luxurious penthouse in Chicago's upscale residential area, enjoying the view overlooking Lake Michigan every day. I also acquired a weekend cottage in Wisconsin. But more satisfying than the luxurious lifestyle was the nonprofit organization Medical Finance Solutions that I established in my 5th year. This organization provided free advice to low-income people struggling with medical expenses and offered direct financial assistance in particularly serious cases. If I had such help when I had my accident, how different things might have been, I thought, feeling the significance of this work. One day, my office assistant informed me of an urgent call. "They wouldn't give their name, but they seem to know you well and insist on speaking with you." When I answered the phone, I heard a familiar voice. "Michael. My ex-boyfriend who disappeared after the accident." "Megan. I saw you on TV. Such success. What do you want?" I didn't hide the coldness in my voice, and he stammered. "Actually, I'm struggling financially, lost my job, thought maybe I could help out at your company somehow." I suppressed a laugh. Of course, I had searched his name. I knew he was deep in debt and involved in fraudulent business. "I'm sorry, but we're not hiring," I firmly stated and hung up. The past is past. I only look forward now. Looking at Chicago's skyscrapers from my office window, I exhaled deeply. 5 years since the accident. Life had completely changed. I had lost some things, but what I'd gained far outweighed them. Especially valuable was knowing my own strength. I stood up alone, overcame adversity, and found a way to help many people. On my desk were materials for tomorrow's CNN national broadcast interview on America's medical cost crisis and solutions. My story has just begun, I whispered, preparing my heart for the next challenge. The 58th floor of a Chicago high-rise, with the Second Chance Financial logo shining brightly. From my office, I can see Lake Michigan and the city landscape. Every time I look at this view, I reflect on my journey. 6 years since the accident. Everything has changed. Ms. Williams, wonderful article in Forbes today, my secretary Jessica said, bringing my morning coffee. Thank you, I smile as I accept it. America's female CEO saving the medical cost crisis. A bit exaggerated, don't you think? Not at all, Jessica said with a serious expression. The foundation you established is truly saving many families. Looking through the documents piled on my desk, I checked today's schedule, meetings with investors, a review meeting for a new medical expense support program, and a television interview in the evening. Ms. Williams, Jessica's slightly tense voice came through the intercom. There are unscheduled visitors. Who? After a moment of silence, they say they're your mother and sister. My heart skipped a beat. Family I hadn't contacted in 6 years. Why are they here? Taking a deep breath to calm myself, please show them in. The office door opened, and 2 women entered. For a moment, I couldn't recognize them, they had changed so much. My mother Carol, without her former flashy clothes and perfect makeup, wore a cheap coat, with fatigue heavily showing on her face. My sister Brenda was even more shocking. The former healthy glow was gone, and her emaciated face showed clear signs of illness. Megan. My mother called with a trembling voice. It's been a while. I maintained a calm facade, standing behind my desk without responding. I had decided to first hear what they had to say. We've seen your success in newspapers and on TV, my mother continued. I'm really proud. Our daughter has become so successful. I couldn't help but smile bitterly at those words. Proud? After not contacting me once in 6 years. The 2 exchanged glances, and Brenda stepped forward. Megan, we've come to apologize. Her voice lacked the arrogance of before, thin and trembling. Sit down, I pointed to the office sofa. I returned to my desk, facing them. What do you want? My mother began to cry. I thought it might be the acting she was always good at, but this time was different. These were real tears of desperation. Megan, we're in terrible trouble, my mother began, wiping tears with a handkerchief. I've ruined everything. According to her, after I left, she continued spending, and her credit card debt kept growing. Then 2 years ago, she jumped at an investment opportunity that was guaranteed to make money. She put all her retirement funds into it, but it was a scam. I even mortgaged the house, it's going to auction next month, my mother's voice trembled. Next, Brenda started talking. She had opened a photography studio, but due to poor business sense in the recession, it failed. Not only did she accumulate substantial debt, but the severe stress triggered an autoimmune disease. I need expensive treatment that insurance won't cover, Brenda said painfully. I'm fighting pain every day. Please, help us. Brenda suddenly stood up, raising her voice. We're about to lose our home, and I can't pay for my medical treatment. You're the only one we can turn to. Her words gave me a powerful sense of déjà vu. 6 years ago, gripping the phone in my hospital bed, I had uttered exactly the same words. but the response directed at me was cold rejection. Silence spread through the room. The two were waiting for my reaction. I stood up from my chair and stood in front of the large window. Looking down at Chicago, vivid memories of the past came flooding back. Remember? I began quietly. When I called from the hospital after that traffic accident. Turning around, I saw them watching me with bated breath. I still remember that trip you mentioned. When I was suffering from the accident and asked for surgery costs, you said, if I have that money, I'd rather go on vacation, right? The color drained from my mother's face. I lost my baby then, too. At those words, my mother's hands trembled. She apparently didn't know. I hadn't told her about the miscarriage at the time. I really didn't know. My mother said, struggling to get the words out. Of course you don't know. Because you hung up the phone, I replied calmly. And you don't know how I survived alone. How a hospital social worker helped me, how I lost all my assets, how I left Houston crying. Brenda lowered her gaze shamefully. We did something truly terrible. But why now? I questioned them. After 6 years without any contact, why are you here today? After you appeared on TV, my mother answered. When we learned you were helping people struggling with medical expenses, we thought we might have a chance too. That honesty brought a cynical smile to my face. At least she wasn't lying this time. I slowly returned to my desk and sat down. I stared intently at the two people before me. Once family I trusted and loved. Now they seemed like strangers. I want you to remember something, I said in a calm but firm tone. I didn't get here because of you. Rather, it was because you abandoned me that I learned to stand on my own. They nodded silently. But I'm different from you. I know how much someone who has been abandoned suffers. Hope lit up in my mother's and Brenda's expressions. I'll offer you conditions, I switched to a businesslike tone. First, regarding Brenda's medical expenses, I'll provide support through my nonprofit organization. However, this will be processed as part of the program, not as charity. Brenda showed a relieved expression. For housing, I'll temporarily provide an apartment I own. The rent will be set lower than market rate, but not free. And both of you must find jobs. Jobs. My mother looked surprised. But I'm already. Age doesn't matter, I interrupted. I can introduce you to some partner companies of mine. Reception, cleaning, anything. What's important is earning your own money. My mother started to object, but Brenda grabbed her hand to stop her. We have no other choice, Mom, Brenda said quietly. Finally, I emphasized forcefully, this is temporary support. Self-sufficiency is the ultimate goal. I'll advise as a coach, but you can't rely on me forever. They nodded with expressions mixing surprise and relief. They had probably expected full financial support. Go home today and think about my conditions, I said, standing up. Let me know your answer by tomorrow. My mother tried to take my hand with trembling fingers. Megan, thank you. You've really become a wonderful person. Those words stirred complex emotions. I was pleased to be appreciated, but at the same time, the pain remained of why this kindness wasn't there 6 years ago. Ask Jessica for your contact information. My assistant will call you tomorrow. As the two headed for the door, I added one last thing. Whatever decision you make, I don't hate you. I just want you to understand that we can't go back to the past. The door closed, and silence returned. The Chicago twilight cast a red light over my office. This reunion after 6 years was more peaceful than I had imagined. But deep down, I felt a small sense of victory. The people who once abandoned me now needed my help. The irony of fate. However, I realized the true victory wasn't in getting back at them. It was in making different choices than they did, understanding the feelings of those who have been abandoned, and being able to extend a helping hand. The office door opened, and Brenda entered with a report in hand. My sister's appearance had changed dramatically from 2 years ago. Her skin had regained a healthy glow, and her eyes were filled with confidence. It had been a year and a half since she started working at my nonprofit organization, Medical Finance Solutions. "Thank you," I smiled as I took the documents. "Up 20% from last month, I see. The TV campaign seems to have been effective," Brenda said, sitting in the chair next to me. "We've had 50 new applications this month. All are under review." After recovering from her autoimmune disease, she studied medical expense support programs intensively at my suggestion. Now, as a key staff member of the organization, she handles everything from applicant screening to support plan development. "Heard from Mom?" I asked, and Brenda nodded. "Yesterday, she said the event at the community center was a huge success. She was in charge of a financial literacy course for seniors. My mother Carol was living a modest life in the apartment I provided while volunteering at a senior community center. Honestly reflecting on her past spending habits, she now teaches other seniors how to protect themselves from scams and use their pensions wisely. The relationship with my family never completely returned to what it was, but it was gradually improving. Weekly Sunday dinners had become a new tradition, and sometimes we enjoy peaceful conversations. Occasionally, the pain of the past resurfaces, but all three of us never stop trying to overcome it." "Nervous about tonight's adoption seminar?" Brenda asked. "A little," I answered honestly. "But I'll be fine with David there." "David Morrison. I met the pediatrician a year ago at a meeting about expanding our medical expense support program. I was touched by his sincerity and dedication to children in difficult situations. 8 months into our relationship, we had begun preparing to adopt." "You two will make wonderful parents," Brenda said kindly. "I hope so," I replied, looking out the window. "If we can change someone's life." Thinking about the baby I lost in the accident still hurts my heart. But that pain has transformed over time, from destructive grief to a desire to create something. I pick up the newspaper on my desk. The latest issue of Fortune features an article on 10 people transforming America's medical system, including my name and photo. The nonprofit organization had grown to have branches in 20 cities nationwide, providing over 5,000 medical expense support cases annually. "By the way," Brenda changed the subject, "about Michael, is he still harassing you?" For a moment, an unpleasant memory returns. My former boyfriend Michael, upon learning of my success, suddenly sought to reconcile. When rejected, he began posting slander about me on social media. "She's cold-hearted, success has made her arrogant," and various other defamatory statements. Since sending a warning letter from my lawyer, it stopped completely, I answered. Last I heard, he was accumulating new debts in Nevada. "I can't believe someone like that abandoned you," Brenda seemed indignant. "At this point, I'm almost grateful," I smiled. "If he had supported me then, I might not have the life I have now." After Brenda left, I gazed at Chicago's skyscape from my office window. How much life has changed since that accident 8 years ago. Sometimes, the days of crying alone in a hospital bed seem like a dream. I open my desk drawer and take out a small box. Inside are hundreds of thank you letters from patients who received support. These letters are my true assets. I pick up one letter. It's from a young woman in Houston, Texas. She too had suffered serious injuries in a traffic accident and struggled with high medical costs not covered by insurance. With our support, she recovered successfully and now works as a nurse. "Your story inspired me. I want to become someone who helps others too." Those words warm my heart. My past pain has now become someone else's hope. The evening light streams into the room, illuminating the organization's mission statement on the wall. No one should have their life ruined by medical expenses. The phone rings. It's from David. Are you ready? Looking forward to today's seminar. Yes, I'm coming now, I reply, looking at the photo on my desk, my mother, sister, and me. Taken last Christmas. Not a perfect family, but 3 people beginning to build a new relationship. Taking my coat, I whispered quietly, sometimes the greatest pain brings the greatest growth. Closing my office door, I walked out toward a new twilight. The story doesn't end. It continues as long as wounded hearts heal and new hope emerges. I found my path. And now, I'm in the middle of walking it.